Thanks for joining us today. We'll give this a couple minutes for everyone to join. Um, in the meantime, feel free to write into the chat where you're calling in from, and maybe let us know also if you are a current DesignSpec user or a prospective one. That's always interesting to see who's joined us. And feel free to use the chat or the Q&A box. Either one's fine. And we'll get started in just a minute or two. No, I guess I should turn on permissions for everyone to chat, huh? There we go. All right, it looks like we've got a good number of people in here. So let's just go ahead and get started. So thanks for being here, everyone. Fiona Sanapelli with DesignSpec, and we have Chrissy Palmer, your fearless account manager, here today. So she'll be reviewing account management and a few other, tools and tips and tricks within that, including roles and permissions and some other setup stuff. So lots of good things for you to learn. As usual, we are recording this session, so we'll send out a thank you for joining email either tomorrow or Monday, and we'll include that recording. And as always, with any questions about your account, feel free to reach out to Chrissy at support at DesignSpec, and we're always here to help you. So put your questions in the chat box or the Q&A box. We'll pause occasionally to answer a few questions, and then when Chrissy's done, we'll do a Q&A at the end. So Chrissy, I'll let you take it from here.
Awesome. Thanks, Fiona. I'm just going to share my screen and we can jump in and then I'll just give you a quick overview, similar to what Fiona was mentioning about what we're going to cover today. Okay, can you see my screen okay? Oh,
Yep.
that little bar at the top. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. This is going to be a webinar that goes through the account setup and management. And so what we're going to cover is setting your account up. So for new users, setting your account up so that you can jump in to your project with all of your company standards and defaults intact. And then we're also going to review a little bit of how that information trickles down into your project, but we're going to look at the integrations as well, and as well as the web clipper and managing your account. So lots to cover today, so I want to get started. I'll do my best to pause in between to answer any questions, but I'm sure Fiona will jump in to let me know if those are coming in. All right, so first what I wanted to do is just give you an overview of the platform itself, highlight the two key workspaces that we offer, and then we're going to jump into the account setup. And during the account setup, I am going to try and reference our project tabs so that you can see how information from our global tabs is used within a project to set up your project information. And then at the very end, again, just to reference what we're going to talk about with regards to the account management, we're going to go through roles and permissions, adding and removing users, and then a little bit of discussion on getting your account subscription invoices and updating your billing. Perfect. Okay, so within the platform itself, there are two main workspaces. So we have our global setup tabs, and then we have our project specific tabs. These are two different colors, and so you can always differentiate where you are within the platform. You can get from A to B very quickly. So right now I've just logged in. I'm on my dashboard page. This is a global tab, and what it's going to highlight for me are any recent projects that I've worked on. So I can choose to go into a project from here, or I can go over to my projects tab. Now, from that projects tab, I can go into my project specific workspace. And at any point in time while I'm in my project, I'll be able to bounce back into my setup if needed. So the dashboard is going to give you an opportunity to go into your global tabs from your project, but you're also going to be able to go from project to project while you're in your gray project tabs. All right, so I just want to highlight on the project level some of the tabs that are impacted by your account setup. So we first have the specs tab. So these are all of your projects tab. You can go in through and set these up in a manner that works for you, so or a flow that works for your project. So the areas tab, and then we have our projects tab, and then our specs tab. So what you're going to see on this tab are how all of your template setups flow into your spec creation. We're also going to see that there's a budget setup tab. The setup is very simple and easy to do. It doesn't flow into your actual budget tab, but unless you're using our QuickBooks integration, but it does flow into your reports. We're also going to talk about vendors, and then we have our reports tab as well. So there is some setup involved with the reporting just to ensure that your logo's on the page, or if you wanted to have any additional PDFs included in your reporting. And then we also have a procurement area. This is its own module that is a complete license. And I can quickly review the setup for how you can ensure all of the correct information is shown on your purchase orders. All right, let's jump into our account setup. So this is going to be really helpful again for new accounts, but also any accounts that are existing and have been with us and you have a couple of projects already in your account, but you maybe want to make some updates. We're going to also talk about how you can do that as well. So as we start the account setup process, I usually recommend you start with your spec types tab. This tab is very crucial to getting your templates set up with your standards and defaults and all of the information you want to use to create your specifications. So we recently did an update to this tab, so it may look a little different if you are a current account. But really what you're seeing, there's more information on the page. And we also have some global setup involved with your categories and custom attributes so that you don't have to go into a template to set that up. So really what you're seeing right now is a list of all of my spec templates. These are essentially my product types that I'm going to be specifying on the project level. So we give you a number of templates that you can use to test the software. You can absolutely use these as you start your subscription and you start creating specifications. You can go in and you can build off of them, or you can archive, delete, and create your own. These are absolutely customizable. So each template that you create is going to have a unique as well as a display name, a code prefix. So this is going to be set up within your coding scheme as you create a spec. So just know that if you do come in here at any time and you change this, you're not going to have an impact on any current specs that are created. You're really just going to set up a new prefix for specs being created moving forward. So all of your spec types, again, are going to be your product types. However, we do have an option to group those into a category. So we provide you with some defaults like furniture, finishes, OS&E, and accessories, but you can absolutely go in and add your own. You can assign those to each category to each spec type along with a furnished, installed by, and classification. We do recommend having these set up on your template because when you go to create a specification, these are going to be automatically set up for you on that spec. The next thing you're going to set up are your custom attributes. So these are absolutely available to you to customize. You can go into the master list and you can add any additional options from the master list. If you haven't saved your template, you can also remove them if you've changed your mind. And then you can even go to the master list to add additional ones. Once you've added them to the master list, you can add them to any template. And so if you want them to go into a specific order, you can definitely go in and drag and drop these into a way that works for you. A lot of our accounts like to have model name and model number at the very top. and then color finish follow. So you can ensure that all of your templates have that same structure or order across your custom attributes, because that's the way that they're going to show on your full page spec report. Next, you can go into setting up spec linking. So I'm just going to go over to a chair. Typically, when you link specs, it's just to group them together in your reports or to highlight that for manufacturing purposes or install purposes that a fabric is going to be with a chair, or a lot of times people like to link pillows with your chairs to ensure that during install those are put together. So what you're going to do as you're linking them is you're just going to set up on the back end all of your relationship descriptions. And then when you go into a specification in your project, you can select the description and you can link a spec to that. So if I go in here, or if I go to set up a new one, I can set up a description. So, I have a number here. Maybe I also want to have a wood finish so that I can link a wood finish spec to my chair. So all I have to do is set up the description, and then I can go in and I can select what spec types are relevant, because those are what's going to show first as I go to link a spec to this description. So you can set that up at the very beginning or as you go, or as your projects progress, I should say. And then the next thing you're going to do is also you're going to link or set up designer approvals. So these can be specific to each spec type. So all you have to do is select them from the available list, and then you can set a default by selecting the box. You can also remove that if needed, if it's not being used by a spec. So one thing that I do just want to mention, if you are coming in to make changes at a later point and you go into your template, if you select a removed custom attribute from, or a removed option, I should say, from the custom attributes, it will be taking that custom attribute off of all of your templates. So if you've used that custom attribute on a spec and you filled out information, that will be removed from that spec in all past projects. Don't worry, the information is not lost. You can always uncheck the box, save, and add it back. So at a later time, if you want to come in and maybe you want to make changes to a number of custom attributes, that's probably an opportunity where you can go and you can archive your template. Anytime you archive a template, you're protecting any past projects with specs that are using that template. It just won't be available moving forward. So when I go in and I archive a template, it's also going to remove it from this master list. It's really just hiding it. It's still in my account. I can always go in and I can select the show archive toggle, and I can unarchive it back if I want to. So this is a really great option. Again, if you wanted to go in and make some updates to your templates, perhaps change some of the defaults, you can go in and archive any of those. If you are at the beginning stages of setting up your account, you can go into our categories tab as well as our attributes tab. Now, the categories tab is an opportunity for you to just, instead of going into your template and adding additional options, just to set them all up here. With our Pro tier, we do offer a category number range option. So this is set up with your spec codes. And really what this is doing is allowing you to set up a number range so that you'll set up a category to your spec type. And then when you use that spec type to create a specification, it'll automatically start your coding scheme off at a specific number. So again, this is a part of our advanced spec coding category number range features. So if you're interested in testing this out, I recommend giving it a shot. I'll show you when we go into a project where you can select this option. Another feature I want to highlight is our custom attributes. So we've added a new feature where you can go in and you can set up your master list, and you can also set up options for a custom attribute to standardize perhaps what information is going in on the project level. So what I've done is I've created a custom attribute, and then each custom attribute has a type. Traditionally, our options were money, numbers, or text, but we've added a new option called list. So this is going to allow you to go in. So if it was originally text, I can still go in and I can select the list option. And then I can go in and I can select add item. And so what this is going to allow me to do is standardize the descriptions available as I'm creating my spec. You're going to want to select the allow override option in case you do want to be adding in a custom description. If you unselect this, when you go to create a spec and it has the Edge custom attribute, you'll be able to see a drop-down menu where you can select ABC. I'm just going to go
Hey,
and
hey,
show you
Chrissy,
what this. Yeah,
do you mind if I ask a couple questions here?
absolutely.
If you archive a template, can you reuse the same prefix or do you have to create a new code?
You can use the same prefix. The only thing that needs to be unique for your spec types is the unique name. So you can have, you know what? I'll highlight that in 1 second. So actually, this is a good opportunity to show you what the difference is between a unique name and a display name, and then I'll go in to show you what that list option looks like on the project level. So right here, I've selected new, and I'm going to create a specification in my project. So I can see here that I have two templates called carpet, and they both have the same prefix. So you don't need to have a unique prefix across your templates. But what you are seeing here is below my display name is my unique name. So if I go into my spec types, you can see under carpet that I have two different or wording in brackets. So if I go into my template itself, you're going to now see under my details that that is representing the unique name. This is for internal purposes only. It's really the display name that you're going to see on a report or your interface within a project if you're calling out the spec type. So prefix doesn't have to be unique. It can be whatever you need it to be. The unique name just provides you an opportunity to set up two carpet templates. Perhaps they're for different project types or one's brand specific.
Great. Okay. I have just a few more questions and then I'll let you get back to going through the presentation. This is jumping around a little bit, but can you just tell us if you're able to upload more than 3 logos in your global report settings?
So in the global report settings, there's only 3 upload options available for the global level. Oh. Um, so if we go over to our reports, I'll just go over here really quickly. You'll see that you have those 3 options, and really those are set up to represent your company logos, maybe a short form or a long form. But also within the project, you can upload a logo. So maybe that's something that's client specific or an opportunity for you to upload a concept image for your project. But this is definitely an opportunity for you to upload any sort of logo outside of your company that you want to capture on your report pages.
And you can also upload a procurement logo, right?
Correct. Yes. And that's available within the procurement setup.
Okay. For project setups, if we use a different project number for our procurement projects, are we able to change the number assigned to the design project when creating POs in the procurement tab?
So if this is your project number on in the specification side of things, you want to be able to change the project number. So the project number from your project detail setup does flow into your RFQs. It does not flow into the purchase orders, so you can customize the purchase order number. Um, I believe that's what you're referencing. Is that
Can you change the number assigned to the design project?
the number can be
Can
updated
you
at any
clarify?
time if needed,
Yeah, it sounds like PO
but
number might be a different question, but maybe Stephanie, you can clarify. But yeah, the you can create whatever purchase order number you want, and it doesn't matter what the project number is. Um,
yeah.
okay, and then going back to the spec window where you were, that new feature, the list feature,
Mhm.
Um, Someone's asking if it's been released, they can't find it. Can you show them again how to find that new list feature?
Yep, absolutely. So there is setup involved for you to see that on the project level. So I would go over to this attributes tab here and let's create a new one. So perhaps we do, maybe this is for table height. We can go in and we can set up for custom attributes. I do recommend keeping the unique name and display name the same, only because um, it will just simplify that setup. But if you can always come in and change the display name if you need to. Okay, so what I've done now is I've set up my unique name and display name, and I've selected list, which has now brought up the option to add in those descriptions. So if I know my table height's really going to be maybe 3 different heights, and I just want to standardize what that is, I can go in and I can say, okay, let's set up each of those, and then my team can pick whichever one is relevant for the product that they're specifying. So I'm just going to make up a couple of table heights. I'm hoping that I'm close. And so what I'll do is I'll just go in and, maybe I put them in a random order. So I drag and drop them to a way that makes sense. I just click away and then it's going to now be saved in my master list. If I do want to come in at any point and make any changes, I can just click on that custom attribute again. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my project. I'm going to go in and I'm going to start setting up a table spec. Actually, I just realized I need to add that onto one of my templates. So what you'll do is you'll set it up and then you'll come into your templates and you'll select your spec type, and then you'll go over to the master list and you'll select table height. And now I just have to add it on. We're just going to drag and drop it to the top because that's super important. And now I'm going to go into my project. I just like to refresh my browser, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to select my table and I'm going to start creating my spec. So now if I go down here, it's going to give me that option to select what is the relevant table height for this specification. So again, it just kind of allows you to be a little bit more efficient on the spec side. Like for countertops, maybe there's 3 different typical options that you always choose from. So if you set that up in the list, you can just in a way autofill based on one click, and you don't have to type in all of those descriptions. So super valuable for lots of different spec types where there's only a couple of options for the description. So you can just set that up on the back end and then use that for setting up your spec.
And you had, when you set this up in the back end, you had turned on the tick box that said allow override, which means that if you don't want one of those three drop-down options, you can just type in whatever you want in that
Mhm.
field. So if you have like a 42-inch table height, you can just type over that in the specific spec.
Correct. If you were to uncheck this, then these would be the only 3 options you could add for that description. But I usually recommend setting that up just in case you do need to add in a different description.
And on that note, this is the last question, and you can get back and we'll answer the other ones after. Is it possible to increase the character limit for attribute text fields?
Yes. So right now, or I should say, when you start an account, the default is 100. If you find that's not enough space for you and you don't want to enter the information within the summary notes or the notes tab, what we can do is just let us know and we can set you up with or extend that custom attribute for you to 300, which is the max. And the only reason there is a max is because we want to ensure the most efficient performance for you guys. And if we have each custom attribute with 1,000 characters, it can also really change the layout of your specification reports.
Right, yeah. So you can just use the notes tab to add additional notes um, if needed, so that it doesn't screw up the layout. Okay, thanks, Christy. We'll address any future questions in a little bit, but don't want to derail this too much, so continue on.
Of course. So I just want to mention a few more things before we move on to another tab. But basically, what you can do as you're doing an overview of your templates is you can filter on any sort of category just to see what templates you have set up per category. And the same goes for the furnished installed by. So you can come in and you can quickly find that information. And also for efficiency, you can select a template. If you want to build off of it or add a different unique name, you can go in and just select the template and then the copy button. So lots of ways you can get your account set up quickly. Again, if you do have any questions about this, just let us know. Next, I'm going to go into the instructions. So the instructions, once you've set up your spec types, you can link them so that they're standardized. And what I mean by that is if you go to create a case good or an area rug specification, and just say this instruction is something that I want to keep standard to all of my area rug specs, I can go in, you don't have to put a dash. I can go in and I can set up this instruction, and then I can tag all of the templates that it's relevant for. Now, when you're tagging an instruction as being relevant, you're going to see in the specification itself all of those relevant instructions on the right. But if I want to go into the instruction and say, okay, I want this to be included on all of perhaps my carpet and my area rug, but I don't want it to be on these other, oops, of course I get rid of area rug. But I don't want it to be on my others. I can go in and say, okay, it's going to be now linked to those templates. I can select save. And now when I go into an area rug, I'm going to see that instruction with a lock on it. And so just know that anytime you go in and you change your instructions, it is a global tab. So if you are just unlinking one, so if I just go in and I just say, okay, I don't want it to be required, the instruction is still going to be on that spec. But if I go in and I remove it from it, then that's automatically updating every spec or the instruction for every spec in all of your projects. So the bonus to that is that you can go in your project and start setting up specs and then set up your instructions afterwards. Also, once you've gone in and you've set up all of your instructions, you can go in and you can filter. So if I wanted to filter on all of my accessory specs just to see what I've set up or what I've tagged as relevant and required, you can then go in and you can drag and drop them into a specific order. And this will just allow you to organize, maybe group some of the similar instructions for purchasing together, some of your manufacturing instructions together. And also, if there is a very general instruction that you would like to have included on all of your specifications, you can go in and you can set up the instruction and you can say, okay, I want this to be required on every single spec that I create, just so that that note is on every spec page that I have in my full page spec report. So that is the instruction setup. Once you're done with your spec types and instructions, you can go into our spec stages.
Hey,
And really this, yeah,
sorry, one question about the instructions. Can you
okay,
set up instructions for different project types, like hospitality versus multifamily?
right. That is a great question. So right now, we have a way of you standardizing them, but if there are ones that are brand specific, what a lot of people are doing is you can call certain instructions out with all capitals and then some with not all capitals. And you can then choose those on the project level to assign. Or what you can do, and what is an easy option, is you can set up a template project. That can, maybe that one is brand specific to Wyndham or to a Marriott project. And you can go up and you can set up one of every spec, and then you can assign the instructions to that spec, and then you can use that to pull your specifications for new projects. That being said, we do have a feature in development that's coming, and I'm going to highlight a little bit of that feature in other areas of the platform today, but it's going to be an opportunity for you to label your instructions, and that's going to help you with dealing with different brands or project types and those instructions. The last way that I'm going to suggest is if you do have a lot of residential projects and maybe a lot of commercial projects and they both have different instructions, maybe that's an opportunity for you to set up two different spec type templates. with that unique name so that you can attach different instructions to those templates. And then you can standardize it on the global level.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. So the spec stages are stages that you can set up in the global tab. These are going to apply to all of your projects, and you can set them up from the top down to reflect where all of the stages a product or a spec will go through within your project workflow. So you can get really creative and fancy, and you can have a specific color scheme where you maybe assign different colors to different stages, different shades. And then you can also go in and you can rename any of the current ones. When you go to set up a new stage, it's just automatically going to put it down to the bottom. So then you can come in at any time and you can say, okay, let's set up a new stage. And then once you click away, it'll save and you can drag and drop it into order. So you can set these up in a way that works for you. If, again, similar to the spec types and your instructions, if they're not being used by a spec, you can go in and you can delete them. Anytime your global information is being used in a project, you won't be able to delete it because we don't want you to lose information on the project level. So again, at that time, if you wanted to come in and you wanted to get rid of this option, all you have to do is click on it and you can archive it. And then again, if it's being used in that project, it will remain there. It just won't be available moving forward. You're also going to see that beside each stage is a status. So this status represents where the item is going to show within your project. So active just means it's going to show everywhere from your specification tab to your budget, to your reports, to procurement. However, you can show it as being removed. And what that will do is that status will show it in your specs tab, not in your budget, but in your reports. And all the information will be crossed off so that you can indicate it's no longer active. And then perhaps once it's been removed, you can then, after it's in that last report, change it to hidden. Hidden will just hide that spec within your specs tab and it won't show anywhere else in the platform. And you can always introduce it back if it becomes active later on. But I always recommend using this instead of deleting specs. It'll keep that information in your project, and then you won't have to recreate it if you delete it and it's needed back again later. So you can go through and set these up as a team, and then you can apply those. So if I go over to my projects tab, I'll just highlight over here. This is where all of your project stages will live. So you can go in and you can update those really quickly, depending on, again, where it is within your workflow. So next, we're just going to go over to the approvals tab. This setup is really easy and simple. You can go and you can build off any designer approvals. So just go in and select new, add your designer approval. Once you've set it up here, you're going to want to go back to your spec types and add it to your template. And then if we go over here, so we do have a client portal, and this is attached to your spec stages. So you're going to want to make sure you have your spec stages set up first. But really what you're going to do here is you're going to assign a spec stage, and it's going to be associated with the client workflow setup. So when you create a spec package, send it to your client, your stages within your project are going to auto update to submitted for those specs. And then once the package has been reviewed, you'll be able to see those spec stage auto update to either approved or rejected based on your client's feedback. So just go in and set up any stage that's appropriate, and then you can save. And then that will automatically allow you to start creating your client portal packages. So as I mentioned earlier, the budget setup tab is really simple. What it does is it refers to our budget report quote invoice, and that's your client invoice. So your client facing report, I should say. So you can add any sort of quote terms and conditions as well as a signature, and that will automatically be applied to the end of your quote invoice report. And if you are using our QuickBooks integration, you can use or you can set up your QuickBook defaults here. So you can learn a little bit more information on our QuickBooks setup. We have some documentation. You can go over to our QuickBooks tab. I'll review that in just a second on how to sync your accounts. But basically what you're going to do is you're just going to select some defaults for as you're pushing an estimate over from your budget so that you don't have to select these options as you're pushing the estimate over in your project from the budget. And now we're going to go into the report setup. So as we discussed before briefly, you can come in here and set up your logo. The default logo, this is going to automatically show up on the cover page that comes with your account and also the default footer on all of our reports. So you're going to automatically have your logo set up on any reporting as you get started. But what you can do is you can build out other cover pages and you can include one or you can include multiple logos. So just set up your company logo, click on it, and then you can choose which one you're including and where. And then also just to go into that project logo setup, you can also go in here and you can set up your project logo. Just click on the blue dots and you can organize where it is and how big it is on the page. So really easy setup. We do have a report designer tutorial that shows you how to go in and set up any custom reports. The setup is similar for the cover page that it is for the full page spec. And to start organizing those, all you have to do is click on the new and you can see the option to set up your full page table-based. This is our image report along with any cover pages or header footers. You do have a custom report that comes with your account, so you can go in and you can make changes or you can play around with that. Just know at any point in time, if you click on the history button, you can revert that change if you liked the original version better.
We have any
Also,
questions?
sorry, any questions there, Fiona?
We have two. Okay, one's about the reports. I'd
Mhm.
like to set up a report that groups by spec types and has a page break between each spec type, maybe a chapter cover page between each spec type as well. Is that possible to set up?
So our full page spec report does offer that option. So when you're on the gray on the pink reports tab, and then you click on your report name, you're basically going into the back end of that report. So this is where you can go to add a cover page or a contents page or even a custom header or footer. And then just below the add-ons, you're going to see a sort order option. So if you wanted to have your spec types grouped together, so all of your accessories and then your chairs and then your tables, you can set up this option. So what that's going to do is it's going to set up all of your spec types together, but each spec type is going to be divided by a cover page. So it'll just call out what the following specs are. You can also do that by category as well. So it'll group them by category, and then within that code category, they'll be alphabetically by code prefix. And then there's also the option to do spec code and then hierarchy. So hierarchy is by spec code, and then it just groups your link specs with your main spec. Right now, we don't have the cover pages as customizable. So there's just kind of a standard cover page, but again, a really great organizational sort order if you want to apply to your full page spec. Now, that being said, I just want to roll that off of one thing, Fiona, before we jump into that second question. If you want the same report but have two different sort orders, you can clone a report. So just go and click on the three dots and say, okay, maybe that's by spec type and this one's by spec code. So it is an opportunity for you to use the same report but have two different sort orders. So then you can just go into your project, select which one you want, and the sort order is already set up for you.
Yeah, and that's a newer feature that we have the ability to clone, so that anyone who's been on the system for a while may not have seen that before.
Mhm.
Okay, if you create a new spec page layout, can you only utilize this for new projects? Or if you're bringing projects over from specs, can you bring them over and have them set up in your new spec page layout? That's kind of a two-part question.
So remember that you're on the global tab. So anytime you've set up a report here, it's going to be available for all of your projects. So if I have just created this one and I go over to my reports tab here, I'm gonna see that report. The only thing that is project specific are your presets. So if I go into another project that I've set up, I'm gonna perhaps have different presets based on the reports that I've generated. So if I go over to this tab, then you're gonna see the one that I just cloned. Now with the migration from specs, we can bring all of your specification information over. We can't bring over report types or report templates, but we can do our best to recreate those. So anytime you guys are looking for a custom report and you need a little bit of help, it's always very helpful if you send over a mock-up and say, hey, can I achieve this or can you help me?
Great. Thanks, Chrissy. Um, I think you just covered this. How do you change the order the spec types are organized in the report? You can also do that like individually within a project. When you're creating a report, you can choose whether you're going to group things by category, by area, by vendor. So those are settings you can adjust while you're creating like a specific report. And then those presets Chrissy mentioned. So if you're doing a hotel, for example, and you go in and you want to make a report that's only for the FF&E for the guest rooms, you can select those filters, save that as a preset, just call it guest room FF&E, and then that will be project specific.
Mhm. Yep. Also,
Um,
one thing to point out, you brought up a good point, Fiona. Um, if you wanted to control the order of your categories, you can absolutely do that. We don't have that option right now with spec types. They're always just going to show in alphabetical order. But the categories, anytime you see these lines, you can drag and drop them into order. So if you are choosing the sort order group specs by category, it will show them in the order that you have set up within the pink spec types tab.
okay, another question. Previously in specs, you can sort your areas to customize the order by numbering them in the order you wish. Can you do that in design spec?
The areas, sorry?
The areas, yeah.
Yes, yep. So right now, areas do show in alphabetical order, but if you are numbering those by name, then you will be able to control how those are landing in the report, especially if you're grouping your specs by area.
And then the last question, until I let you keep going, was a follow-up from an earlier question about changing the project number. So this person says their project numbers are different when they're doing projects and procurement. So I guess, is it like possible to have a different project number for the project and then change it when it moves into procurement?
So right now for the POs, yes, you can just implement that new project number. For the RFQs, it automatically grabs the project number you have set up within your project details. And I believe they standardized it that way so that you could say, oh, this RFQ is from this project. But I'll definitely communicate that to the team. You know, maybe what we really want to do moving forward with procurement is set up the opportunity for you guys to set up defaults for your RFQs, for your POs, so that you can choose how those numbers are reflected within each project.
And when you create your budget reports and invoices and proposals, you can also put in your own number there. There's a field, there's like a number field. So you could put in whatever you want for that and then save it as a preset.
Yep, absolutely. And the same thing with all of the reports. They do have a report title box for all of the um, default header and footers. I believe that it does show within that. But if you have a custom header or footer, we would just need to make sure that your report title maps onto that so that you can add in maybe any sort of specific numbering system. And then each option does also have a report date that you can use as a box that if you wanted to add a future date, past date, or have a different description there, you can do that as well.
Thanks, Chrissy. I think we're good for questions now.
Awesome. I don't know why I keep going to that tab. Okay. So lastly, we're just kind of run through quickly those procurement and integration tabs, and then I just want to highlight some of the account management. Um, and then we're just going to talk about an extension you could download, our web clipper. So for the procurement tab, really the only setup involved is going in here and selecting some of the default information you want to show on your purchase orders. You can also set up a different logo. Maybe you have a different purchasing logo than you do for your spec reports, but you can go in and set up default information, add your terms and instructions for your vendor, and is submitted by project contact. And then lastly, there's just some layout options. So you can go through and say, do I want my link specs? Do I want my designer approvals showing on my purchase order? So just check the box for yes and uncheck for no. You can override these on the project level if there's different requirements for that project. And then there's also just an opportunity for you to go and say, hey, what kind of descriptors do I want? I don't maybe need all 100 custom attributes that the designer specified. I just want to show some key ones that are targeted towards purchasing. So there's the opportunity to go through and update those. If you are wanting to use our QuickBooks integration, this is a standard feature on our platform. All you have to do is go into the QuickBooks tab and sync your accounts. Really what that is going to do is it's going to allow you to then log into QuickBooks from your DesignSpec account, excuse me, and then you can push over estimates from the budget and purchase orders from the procurement area. It's just a one-way sync right now with pushing information from DesignSpec into QuickBooks, and then you can choose to save your estimates as invoices or your purchase orders, and then you can bill your client through QuickBooks. The Revit integration is similar. You're going to go, this is a pro tier feature. So you're going to go into the Revit integration and you're going to download the plugin that matches the version of Revit you're using. You can then log into Revit and then go under add-ons and select DesignSpec and sync your project so that you can start pushing information from Revit to DesignSpec and DesignSpec to Revit. It's always really helpful to view our demo video or review the documentation if you're interested in this feature. Upon doing that, just maybe give a test project a try and let us know if you have any questions there. And then we also have a Slack integration. This will allow you to receive updates in your account or on your Slack channel, I should say, if there's any changes within your project or newly added information. All right, now I'm going to jump into the account management side. So you guys do have full access to managing your account depending on how your account is set up in the admin area. And when I say that, I just mean that we do have some features that allow you additional control, like our roles and permissions, and if you are an account owner. So the account owner is the person who typically started the trial and then transitioned to a subscription, or someone that you've changed into that role at a later time. The account owner is the only person that can view the billing tab. So the billing tab will be just located on the left-hand side. Here's just an example of what that looks like. On the billing tab, you can go here to change your license type, add more users. You can also go in and update your payment information. There's also a billing history tab where you can go to access any of your past invoices. So you can export those. And also, I did want to point out that you do have an opportunity to, if you're a smaller account, to set up perhaps someone in accounting or IT as an unlicensed account owner so that they can manage your account for you. And they can go in and they can organize the billing or update the card information if your last subscription or something happened to your card in which you need to then go in and push that payment through. So just know that you guys are responsible for managing your own account and you have access to updating the license type at any time. If you start off with Studio and you're ready for more, then you can upgrade to the Pro tier at any time. So all of this is available for the account owner to do through the billing tab. And if you are adding more people to your account and you only want them to have certain levels of access or certain projects to access, you can absolutely do that as well. This is a pro tier feature. is called our roles and permissions. And so there's project and there's role. You just have to turn the toggle on to enable this feature. And then you can go in and you can start setting up roles and offering access to each user this role is assigned to. So just to show you what this looks like, you can come in here and you can you can change the designer name to another role name. And then all you have to do is toggle what you want people to have access to. And if they have access, you can choose, can they just view this information or can they edit it? So this is really great if you set up your account and you want to invite someone to help you with your specification writing, but you don't want them to see your account setup tabs to make any changes. This just ensures that all of your company standards are kept intact and not changed. And then you can always have people go in and view certain tabs if you want them to be able to see, okay, these are all of your vendors, but you can't go in and add any if you're worried about duplicates. So I just like to point this tab out. You can assign multiple roles to each user. And then you can also go in and you can change the access for all projects if you have your project permissions turned on. And if you want to remove someone, just click on remove users. And if you want to invite someone to your account, just click on invite people and put in their email address. If you do have your roles enabled, you'll be able to assign one or multiple roles as you're inviting them to your account.
Couple
Um,
questions, Chrissy.
yeah.
Okay, can the unlicensed user see the billing tab along with the account owner?
No. So only one person in your account can see the billing tab. If that person is the unlicensed account owner, only they'll be able to see that. If you're just an account owner and you want to have access to the entire account, then you wouldn't have that unlicensed title. But if you are the account owner, again, you would be the only person accessing that billing tab. So it's either account owner that's active within the account, and then the unlicensed account owner who's only within the admin area.
Okay, great, thanks. Is there a list of what each role does? Some are clear, but others not so much, and had to do trial and error to understand the limitations.
Of course, we do have a PDF that I can share with you if you're interested. Just let me know and I can send that over. They are a little bit general when you look at them from this list. But really, the pink tabs have that setup behind it. And then the other tabs like project files, you may not know where those are specifically, but just let me know and I can send over that document and it has screenshots. It may be helpful to getting you organized with setting up your roles and permissions.
Great, thanks, Chrissy.
Yeah. Few other tabs just to highlight really quickly. With our pro tier, we have an opportunity for you guys to set up multiple office locations. You can assign those to your projects so that you can have your project address show on a spec page if you like, or on a cover page. And the users tab, this is where all of your users are added and removed. And then the user profile page, this is where you can go to update your username, as well as if you need to update your password while you're here. Some things that we also offer to help you get your account up and running. If I just go in here to our vendors tab, we can help you get your vendors into your account. So if you're interested in us helping you with that, just let us know. We do have an import template that we would ask you fill out. It really would just have a series of columns that you would import or fill out your information, then we can get that imported for you. Really quick way to get your information set up. And then we can also import any sort of vendor representatives if you want, and those can be linked to your vendors as they're imported. And you guys can also set up labels as well for your vendors so that you can see perhaps, what type of products they're providing for you. Those labels can be set up on the labels tab, very similar to the spec type setup or the spec stage setup, sorry. And then you can apply those. And also, if you're interested in our pro tier, we have a spec library, and we just released a new feature similar to the vendor labels that allow you to tag items within your spec library so that maybe they're brand specific or project specific. You can then filter on all of those labels. Oops, that's the vendor label. And now we have our spec labels. So if you're tagging them by project type, you can do that as well. So the spec library is a really great feature that, again, is available with our Pro tier. You can use that as a global sourcing library for your account if you're interested, and then you can track what projects that item is in.
We have a question. Can we do the importing of vendors ourselves?
Not currently. All imports are done by us. Oops, I don't know what's happening there. So if you're interested, again, it's a really quick turnaround. We can do that for you, no problem. So just let us know and we'll send you the template. And even if you're wanting to start, you just signed up for a subscription and you have a project in an Excel file, we can import that for you to get you started as well. Again, a lot of the formatting would have to be done on your end, but we can get that in really quickly if the formatting's done.
Cool. If you have time, do you want to show how to set up multi-office and assign people to offices? We still have 5 minutes.
Sure, absolutely. I do just want to highlight one thing that you can also download to get started. We do have a web clipper. It's an extension of your browser. So all you have to do is Google DesignSpec web clipper, select the add to Chrome, and then you can pin it to your browser by clicking on the puzzle piece. As you're on a vendor website, you can access your web clipper and then you can use that to create specifications and import them into your project. So if you do have your project level permissions set up, we'll go over here to roles. So you'll just have to do this toggle on. And then when you go into, oops, your users, there's a couple of settings that you can do. So you can say, okay, you know what, maybe this person is a senior designer and they are going to have access to all projects. And then you can assign that to someone who doesn't have access to all projects, but you can also remove it. When you've added someone to your account and you haven't given them access to all projects, essentially what you're doing is you're saying, I'm going to add you to one or some specific projects. So you'll go over to your project details. And then in here, you'll go to edit and you're going to see an access tab. So the access tab will either allow you to, maybe I have an office assigned to that user. So I'm just going to allow everyone from that office to access this project. But maybe there's additional people that I would like to add to the project. So you can add people specifically to the project, or you can assign an office to them and assign office to the project. Like anything in the platform, you can always go and add and remove as needed and update those project settings.
Awesome. Thanks, Chrissy. Are there any other questions right now? I don't see any open.
I do just want to highlight one more area of your account that you can access. So again, if you're new to the platform, there's a lot on here that you can access and use to help with your workflow, set up for your project. So what you can do is you can go and click on that question mark in the top right-hand corner, and it's going to give you access to our video tutorials. We have a ton of video tutorials. Lots that Fiona has done, some that I have done, and some of them are longer watches, some of them are shorter, but they all focus on features and functionality of the platform. So you can use those as a tool to learn more about a certain area of the platform or to help you troubleshoot if you have any questions.
We have a question here. If I add a new user and do not set up permissions, are they able to access all current projects on DesignSpec?
Correct. Yes. So if you haven't assigned someone a role, they'll be able to access everything in the account except the billing tab. Now, I do just want to highlight you do have an opportunity to see. I feel like I just changed my permissions. So basically, you're going to have an opportunity to go in and see everything that they've done. Knew that I changed my so within each specification in a project, you're going to be able to see on the history tab or in the activities column who's been in a project and, have they been making changes to a specification. So there is that level of security that you're still going to be able to see. Because I'm logged in, it's not going to show my name, but basically you're going to be able to see, okay, this was the last change that was done and this was the person's name who did it. So that's going to be available on the spec level. And you're also going to have an option to view that on the project level within the activities column.
Thanks, Chrissy. Oh, okay. Clarifying an earlier question. Um, the item wasn't visible. Oh, I see. This is like a specific question someone has about their their account, their project. So I think they'll reach out to you directly.
Okay.
Okay, so I need access to all projects, but I don't want to see them all of the time. Is there a way to hide projects in another tab? So I only see the ones I'm assigned to, but can't see the ones I'm not assigned to.
Um, So you don't want to see the ones that you're not assigned to. So really, I think a good option to do would be if you do have the pro tier with those roles and permissions set up, I think it would be a good opportunity to make sure that you have all of your office locations signed up and that you have an office location assigned to you. Because what you can do then for your projects is you can assign your office to those projects. And when you log in, you can set up your office location so that only your projects are showing. So if you wanted to see all of the projects in the entire account, you can do that too. But this is a great opportunity to just see the ones that perhaps you're working on when you log in so you can find those quickly.
Okay.
Otherwise, yeah, I would say it would be the specific project assignment.
Is there a search bar in the tutorial or help section?
Not currently, but we are looking at updating this so that you can find certain articles or information quickly. If you do go over to our video tutorials, we are going to update this soon. But if you go to the videos tab and you're like, I want to see my areas tutorials, just go and select areas. And then you'll see all of the small videos that are geared towards areas. So I guess, yes, there is a search bar, but it's just more relevant on the videos tab.
Okay, and someone here is new to DS. Can you show them how to find the vendor tab?
Absolutely. So, oops, oops, all over the place here. Okay, so the vendors tab is a global tab. However, we do have it located on the project level. So anytime you want to go in to access your vendors, just go into a project and go over to the vendors tab. If you're working in a specific project and you add a manufacturer or vendor, you're going to be able to see that new contact in all of the projects you're working on.
Great. So someone's asking how to send an order to a vendor. So if you are creating a purchase order, you would send that, like you would download it from here and then email it to the vendor. But Chrissy, do you want to show how to do an RFQ, which would be a request for quote? So a request for a quote from a vendor can be sent directly through DesignSpec.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a vendor bidding tab, which is where all of your RFQs live. So you can go to the items tab, and from here you can create a purchase order or you can create an RFQ. So if you're selecting specific items, perhaps based off of the filters you have organized, you can go to create RFQ. So what the software is automatically assuming is that you are going to maybe be sending this off to a couple of different vendors for updated pricing. So you can select the vendor you're going to send this to, a representative, and then the contact for who's going to be receiving the pricing from the RFQ from the vendor. So you just have to go through. You can add a group label if you're going to be sending it off to multiple vendors. And you can also add a ship to and then any relevant notes. It'll just say, okay, these are the items that are going to be in here. And if you have our pro tier, you can create and send that right away by email, or you can just select create. Anytime you create an RFQ, you can go over to the vendor bidding tab and you'll be able to see all of those RFQs. So this was the one I had just created. I can always download it if I wanted to view it. And then I can even copy it if I wanted to send the same RFQ off to another vendor as well.
Great, thanks. And Chrissy did an hour-long tutorial on all of the procurement features a few months ago. So this person who's asking these questions, I gave you Chrissy's email address. So if you'd like to email her, she can send you a few video links that will help you with the procurement questions. Um,
Oh, and while we're here,
mhm.
just to show you, we did just release a new feature. You can now upload a invoice to a purchase order. So in the procurement area, if you go over to the orders tab, or if you go into the purchase order itself, you're going to now see a documents tab. So you can now capture any invoices from your vendor after sending out your purchase order. So you can have that information in your account. And along with the RFQs, you can also upload any quotes provided by your vendors. So those are associated with the RFQ and everything's in your account as well.
Ooh, I haven't even seen that. That's brand new.
Brand new.
Yay. Okay. Can you save a specification as a SIF file for a furniture dealer? SIF.
I don't believe we have that option, but when you're generating reports, there's a ton of different file options available. Um, if you can export that into a file that you can then change into a zip file, maybe that would be an option just to show you all of the file types available. So anytime you're organizing a spec package or a furniture item, you'll want to set it up within a report, generate the report. Once you've organized that, you'll be able to see all of the file types here. So just select whichever one you're wanting to export it in. Um, we do have a printer icon here as well. I don't recommend this for full page spec, but this is a great option for table-based reports. This will allow you to export right to PDF, and there is some cool options available with this. You can choose your page size. If you're doing an architectural sheet, you can choose to fit multiple pages. You can fit to printable area. So yeah, I think this is, there's a lot of reporting options. It really just kind of depends on your output. But hopefully
Great.
there's an option for you to export the report and then get it into that file that you're looking for.
I see Erin says we can't do SIF in DesignSpec, but you can in Design Manager, which is our
Okay.
sister company that does more accounting for designers. Thanks, Erin. Um, on this, there's another question, but this is on the same note as the printing. Can you print directly from the spec when you are in it?
So we do have a feature that is in development. And what that's going to allow you to do is work in your specification. And I believe it's just going to be a button that you can press. And it's going to automatically take you to a report window where you can preview the spec or you can export it as a report. Within the reports themselves, if you're generating a multi-page report, we do with the Pro tier have an option where you can export that into individual PDFs. I know like that part wasn't a part of the question. I just thought I'd add it in there.
Okay, when you're creating POs, can you have the number sequence automatically generate for you, so that you don't have to go back and manually change the number?
We do want to offer the option to set up purchase order default per project or on the global level. Right now, it just is provided by default, but you can manually change it. The only requirement with the PO codes is that, or PO numbers, I should say, is that they just need to be unique globally. That's the only requirement.
Right. So the first number it'll auto-populate for you is like 10,000 or something. And then the
Yeah.
following one will be 10,001, 10,002. So the system does that for you. But if you want to add your own, you do that manually. But yeah, like Chrissy said, we're probably going to build that in at some point.
Hmm. Yeah, that's been very requested, so we're gonna want to do that.
How do you unassign an office to a project? And then is there a rule that limits people from assigning offices?
Unassign an office from a project. Um, I believe once it's been assigned, uh, it's been assigned. Like you could change it. If you wanted to add, maybe like a default location, you could go to your company settings and you could perhaps change that. Um, Within the users, you don't have to assign an office to anybody if you don't want to, and you don't have to assign an office um, to each project, I believe. But I don't think you can unassign an office once you've assigned one, if that makes sense.
And are there only certain users who are allowed to assign offices? Like if you are a guest or you're considered like a designer or a purchasing agent, any of those roles, can any of those people go in and assign offices?
It just depends on the permissions per role. So, most times, a lot of companies will have different tiered levels of roles, and you can assign multiple roles to one user. So, really, the anyone who's assigning roles or offices or giving access, that person would essentially have access to the user management. So user role and role management, that person would be able, if they have the edit permissions and the toggle on, would be able to go over here, add and remove users, or make any roles and permissions updates.
And can that same toggle assign offices, the user permission in the other in the roles tab?
Yeah, so if you have access to here, you'll be able to go in and say, okay, I want to assign roles. So you can add additional roles. And then if you want to remove roles, you can also do that as well. So just click on that button, remove roles, and then you can assign an office as well if there's no office assigned.
So is there like a toggle though within that whole list of roles with all the toggles?
Mhm.
Is there a toggle for being allowed to assign offices?
Um, that would be with the user and role permission or management.
Okay. Can you have multiple offices assigned to a project?
Not currently, just one.
Okay. While in reports, is there a way to print a report by spec area, not type or alphabetically organized? So, for example, in a hospitality project, you issue by area, so lobby, reception, and guest room. Is there a way to issue a first issuance by area without revisions that turn red? So, two separate questions. So, the first question is there a way to print a report by area? And you can also save this as a preset when she shows you how to do it. So then you don't have to go back and do it every time. And then similar, she'll show you in the settings where you can turn off having the revisions highlighted in red.
Yeah. So first thing you'll do, and you can do the settings or the spec filters either or first. You can go in, and if this is a report by area, so for the full page spec report, you can select an area for your report or multiple areas to show in the report, but we're not able to group specs by area. So really what you'll do is you'll select maybe the area grouping or an individual area. And then you'll go under settings and we just have that filter. So you want to uncheck highlight revisions so that nothing is showing highlighted in red. And there's more filters in here as well. One thing to note is if you are selecting an area, then any link specs that you have with that items with that area assigned are going to show in the report, even if you uncheck the include link specs. So only because link spec item is associated with the parent spec, and if it has that area assigned, that's why it's going to show in the report. So basically what you'll do is you'll select your filters, you'll generate the report, and then if you wanted to save a report preset like guest room FF&E items or guest room specifications, you can do that by generating the report and then saving the preset.
Awesome. Thanks, Chrissy. Um, Okay, I think, oh, someone asked if the video will be on YouTube. Yes, we put everything on YouTube and we'll send you the link tomorrow or Monday in an email. So you can like go specifically to this. And you can also go to just DesignSpec, search that on YouTube and find a bunch of other tutorials. If there is a specific topic you'd like information on, just email support@DesignSpec or email Chrissy, and we can send you specific links to some of the YouTube videos. I believe some of the earlier webinars are posted, but they're not as immediately visible. So we can always just send you links for anything. Okay, well, thank you so much, Chrissy. You answered so many questions.
I hope it was helpful. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everyone. See you next time.
Bye.